Go.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. Before we get started, we have another brief reminder for our Spanish-speaking viewers that a translated version of this briefing is being streamed live simultaneously on YouTube. Sylvia?
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la conferencia de prensa sobre los incendios Glass. También habrá una actualización sobre coronavirus por la doctora Mace. Esta actualización se está transmitiendo en vivo por nuestro canal de YouTube con interpretación al español. Para escuchar la versión en español, puede usar el link de YouTube que se incluyó en la descripción de esta publicación en Facebook. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Sylvia. And we welcome you again to another of our joint news briefings for the County of Sonoma, the City of Santa Rosa, and CAL FIRE. My name is Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, and this is our update for Monday, October 5th at 5 p.m. The battle against the Glass fire has now extended into its second week. And then although it has slowly grown to more than 65,000 acres in size over the weekend, favorable weather conditions have allowed firefighters to gain ground. At last report, containment was up to 30%. And although there are still some hot spots up in northeastern Napa County, over the past 2 days on our side of the mountains, significant numbers of evacuees have been allowed to return home. For more on these developments, let's start with CAL FIRE Division Chief Ben Nichols.
Thank you for having me, Paul. So as you mentioned, we have turned the corner on the fire as a whole. The backside of the red flag that we've just gone through, the only stubborn piece yet to button up is the area in the Livermore Ranch area off of Highway 29 over by Mount St. Helena. So crews are taking advantage of the lack of winds and the slight increases in the relative humidity and the lowering of temperatures here in the last 24-hour operational period to continue to seek and destroy those hot spots close to the line that will allow us to get to that 100% containment here, hopefully in the very near future. As you mentioned, we are still at 30% contained today. That number is increasing as we speak throughout each day. However, I do caution the public that we are in the 98th percentile out of 100 for our fuel conditions out there for the energy release that they may experience during burning conditions. So while we continue to mop up around the Sugarloaf, Adobe Canyon area, that's the most significant portion here in Sonoma County. The other critical work that's being undertaken today and the last several days is the make safe work that we have to do along Los Alamos Road and St. Helena Road with Transportation Public Works and our utilities partners to ensure that when the community comes back into the area, we don't have any civilian injuries due to equipment and or infrastructure that's not been repaired. With that, currently this afternoon, we have 2,774 firefighting personnel assigned to the Glass incident, and it is currently 65,580 acres. Those 2,700 personnel are assigned to 408 fire engines. So we are the priority for the state here, and we're making good headway, and we're looking to get people home just as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. That certainly is good news. So for more on evacuations, let's go to Misty Wood of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office. Misty?
Thank you, Paul. So we're still working here at the Sheriff's Office around the clock, patrolling the evacuation zones that are still under mandatory evacuation order. We have come off of our emergency schedule. We're at about a dozen deputies who are assigned specifically to the evacuated zones to make sure that, that your properties and your homes remain safe while you're gone. So we are out there actively patrolling, looking for looters or people who shouldn't be there. So if you If you somehow are able to sneak into an evacuation area, please expect to be contacted by one of our deputies. We're also in the areas surrounding the burn zone and surrounding the evacuated areas to help you. So if you are in the area outside of outside of an evacuation zone and need any assistance, please feel free to ask a deputy. We are here to help you. As Chief Nichols mentioned, we're working towards repopulation very closely with CAL FIRE. Generally speaking, we start at the unaffected areas and we work towards the more damaged areas and the more fire damaged areas from there. And it takes some time. So we do appreciate everybody's patience. I know it's not easy. Right now, we're looking at 1,955 people approximately who are under evacuation order, and approximately 4,315 people who are under evacuation warning. Those are the latest numbers that we have from our partners over at the County Emergency Operations Center. We're going to continue to do everything we can to get you back to your homes and properties as quickly as possible. To stay up to date, we do recommend that you sign up for Nichols and follow the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We issue evacuation notices, and also when we're lifting evacuation orders, we issue those through Nichols, and we share that on all of our social media sites. So that way you can stay informed so you know when you're able to return to your home or your property. That concludes my report. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I should mention that Misty Wood is the Community Engagement Liaison for the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, and we appreciate all the work that she does. For more on the evacuation areas and repopulation, let's go to Santa Rosa Police Chief Ray Navarro. Chief.
Thank you, Paul. So I'll pull up my notes here real quick. I apologize. So yesterday, the repopulation efforts went really well. We had minimal traffic issues as we repopulated the Oakmont area. I'm pleased to report that, again, we had no looting reports or arrests or any kind of arrest within the evacuation zones last night. And currently we have, from an evacuation standpoint, we have 923 residents remaining under evacuation order. And we also have 8,764 residents under the evacuation warning. We are continuing to work diligently with our public safety officials to reopen the remaining evacuated areas of the city, and we will do so once it's deemed safe. But until that happens, we just want to remind everyone that the areas under evacuation order remain closed at this time, and it is unlawful to enter these areas. So a couple of reminders: don't go in those areas; it's dangerous for the public. And the other thing is to don't move any unmanned traffic barricades. They are there, and these measures are put in place to keep you safe. So it's very important that you follow the instructions and follow any orders and road closures that are out there right now. The Santa Rosa Police Department continues to patrol the evacuation zones with the assistance of mutual aid from the San Francisco Sheriff's Department and the San Francisco Police Department. We're conducting security checks of not only the homes in those areas, but also the areas around that, including the warning areas. We have over 20 officers that are dedicated just to the evacuation zones and the surrounding areas. So again, if you're concerned about your particular house, we rest assured we have officers out there in the areas checking on those for each operational period, really 24/7. To check whether or not your property remains in that evacuation order, you can go online to srcity.org/evac updates, and you can follow the Santa Rosa Police Department and the Fire Department on all of our social media platforms. That is all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate you being here as always. For an update on what is going on at our Emergency Operations Center at the county, Let's go to Sonoma County Director of Emergency Management, Chris Godley. Chris?
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome from the EOC. At this point, our focus is, of course, transitioning from response into recovery and supporting the reentry efforts. This includes, in addition to the public safety you might see on the road, as well as the utility companies, things like inspecting to make sure the businesses and the buildings and the homes that might have been damaged are still safe to occupy. We're also looking at environmental hazards that might be in the area, as well as conducting an initial sweep to see if there are hazardous materials present that could cause a problem for residents going back to the area. We're also conducting damage assessments, CAL FIRE leading the way with their damage inspection teams. We're probably about 2/3 of the way done with that effort. So it's going to still take several days for us to get all the information and compile and provide a truly accurate picture of exactly what has been impacted in the area, but it is moving ahead. We're also looking at signage that will be installed in the area as you enter the burn scar, as well as on individual properties, basically indicating that this is an area where there are hazards in the environment, especially anything that's burned, the ash, and of course, burned debris that might have been in a residential or commercial structure is extremely hazardous. We're working with our state and federal officials to identify and pursue potential state and federal resources that could be brought to bear in support of our residents as well as a local government. And then, of course, we are continuing to manage those that have sought assistance. Our shelters continue to function. We are consolidating those. At this point, we have about 45 folks each, both at Santa Rosa Vets and Sonoma State University, and we're looking to transition out of Santa Rosa Veterans Building. And I'd also mention we're monitoring the incoming weather that's going to be coming later this week to determine if the weather pattern provides a challenge for us, having just been recently burned both here in the glass fire as well as at Wallbridge. And we're going to be taking a look to see just what those impacts might be in our community. That's it from the EOC.
Thank you, Chris. Well, that's certainly good news. We'd like a little rain, but not too much here, okay? I just want to remind our viewers that we are inviting the public to submit questions to our panelists tonight. You can do it by leaving comments in the Facebook Live comments area, or you can submit them, email them to publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. That's publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. We're very pleased to have with us once again Congressman Mike Thompson. Congressman.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you to everyone who's on the Zoom call, and as important, all of those who are working behind the scenes to make this a much better situation. From the federal government, there's been no change. We're able to get the 75% share of cost language that would allow the federal, make sure that the federal government pays 75% of the cost. And we've introduced legislation. I have a standalone bill, and we passed in the COVID-19 relief bill, most recently passed legislation that language is also in that bill that would bump it up to 90%. Something that I believe is very, very important, especially with COVID, when we're already being hit. State and local governments are really suffering, so the federal government needs to step up. There's been no requests for a disaster declaration from the state yet. I understand from OES that will probably happen next week. Once that happens, that opens up different avenues of help from the federal government. And I can tell you that your congressional delegation is 100% behind us. We'll do everything we can. Jarrett and I work in very close partnership. We will do everything we can to bring every penny in federal resources back to our district to help everyone recover. Thank you all for the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Congressman. And we're also happy to have with us the other member of our delegation, Congressman Jared Huffman. Congressman Huffman, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Paul. Mike gave a great report. We're working shoulder to shoulder, ready to spring into action to get that additional federal assistance as soon as all the requests have been made. Thanks to everybody who's working so hard right now.
Great. Well, thank you for both being here, and we may have some questions for you as we go along. Let me ask. Let's go to. I don't see. Let's go to Vice Chair of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, Linda Hopkins. Linda, you have a thought or two?
Thank you very much, Paul. Yes, I just wanted to remind everyone that our local assistance center is actually still open right now until 7 p.m. and it will reopen tomorrow morning starting at 10 a.m. and running through 6 p.m. And that is at Maria Carrillo High School at 6975 Montecito Boulevard, Santa Rosa. And it will go at least through Sunday, October 10th. I want to acknowledge just the challenges that everyone is facing and express my heartfelt condolences to those who have lost homes and also those who are still displaced from their homes. So rest assured that Local Assistance Center will be waiting for you when you are able to get back to your homes. You know, you are all lucky to have a wonderful, fantastic leader in Chairwoman Susan Gorin, but I want you to know that regardless of what district you reside in, the entire Board of Supervisors stands with you and will be working with you in order to support your rebuilding efforts. We are very committed to our fire survivors. We look forward to everyone getting back home and to supporting the rebuilds of those who have not been able to go home. So take care, everyone, and don't forget about the Local Assistance Center. As a reminder, this has a lot of different government organizations and also nonprofit organizations there to offer services, although the nonprofits will be there to assist with resource coordination, but will not have gift cards on site. And one last note is that the Local Assistance Center is provided to everyone regardless of immigration status. So it is a safe place for you to come and get services.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor. And we have Santa Rosa Mayor Tom Schwedholm with us too. Mayor?
Thank you, Paul. I first want to compliment both of our congressmen because the words that you said here are not just words, it's the actual action that both of you are doing to support Sonoma County. I can speak for the numerous trips that myself and other city residents have made to Washington, D.C. while we were fighting the Tubbs fire and get that funding. And both of you and your offices have been very supportive to do what Congressman Thompson said, get every penny coming back to this community. So thank you for all of your efforts, what you've done in the past and what you're going to continue to do for us for this glass fire. So Vice Chair of the Supervisors just talked about the Local Assistance Center. Thank you for that, Linda. I just wanted to add a little bit more information. Just to clarify, it is open today. I was there when it opened and it is running very efficiently and effectively. Fortunately, due to our past experiences with local assistance centers, we've really applied all of that learning to what's taking place now at Maria Carrillo. The waits are not too long and everyone, let me emphasize, everyone is welcome there. It is open from today till 7 o'clock and then basically through Saturday, October 10th till 7 o'clock. And I did talk with staff there, and if there is a need for additional resources past Saturday, we will be there for you. And a little bit more information, I really want to encourage the fire survivors to take advantage of the services and resources at the Local Assistance Center. Once there, you can meet with representatives to recover vital records like your passport or driver's license, get started with the city or the county's permitting process, get help with insurance paperwork, and more. For more information about the Local Assistance Center and other recovery information, it's available at the city's website at srcity.org/glass fire recovery. Another important point I want to cover is ash cleanup. As many of us can see around our homes and businesses, ash from the glass fire has settled throughout the city of Santa Rosa and Sonoma County. Ash contains toxic substances and may be irritating to the skin, eyes, nose, and throat. It is also unhealthy to breathe and may trigger asthma attacks. Please do not use leaf blowers or do any activities that will release the ash back into the air. Please adhere to the safety guidance at srcity.org/returning home to reduce your household's exposure to ash and to protect your health and the health of others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And we also do have with us the chair of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, Susan Gorn, who just returned from the LAC. And Susan, thank you for joining us.
Just want to thank the city and the county for working together on setting up the local assistance center. There was a steady stream of folks coming into the LAC even on this first day. I want to encourage everybody who lost a home to please come and see me and or one of my staff at a table there. We want to know who you are, and we especially want to know how to outreach to you. We are working on setting up a virtual town hall and obviously ongoing information on the information that you need to navigate on this journey. But I also want to thank the city and CAL FIRE and the county for working so hard with our utilities crews, our folks who cutting down the trees along Highway 12 to welcome home the folks in Oakmont and Kenwood. We are so grateful to be back at home, although I wasn't so grateful to look at my refrigerator, but we navigated through that hazardous waste cleanup. Took us a little bit of time, but we are so grateful to be home. And I want to reiterate the challenges with the ashes. I am seeing blackened leaves on my deck blown from the fire. Be very careful about certainly leaf blowers. I'm using a stream of water to douse the plants to keep the ashes in the ground and not blow them around. But welcome home, everybody. And I'm so anxious that we can get the rest of you home if you have a home to work, to return to. And that's part of the journey. And we will be here with you every step of the way. I will be working with the mayor, the city, and the county to help you through that.
Thank you, Chair Gorin. Today, we're also pleased to welcome Dr. Sundari Mace, who will be giving us an update on our progress to slow the spread of COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Mace, for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Paul, and thanks to everybody else. Really appreciate everybody's commitment. So today, I'd like to give us a little update on our COVID-19 cases. As of October 4th, we now have 7,861 confirmed cases in Sonoma County, an increase of 62 cases in the previous 24 hours. These include 1,331 active cases and 6,408 people who have recovered. We still have 122 deaths reported. We now have completed 181,050 coronavirus tests. As for the two key metrics that determine when we can move out of the purple tier, the state still has our daily case rate at 7.8 per 100,000, as this case rate is reassessed every Tuesday. And our test positivity rate is still at 4%, which was where we were last week. We are likely not expecting much of a change this week, but tomorrow we will get our new tier status. So beginning this week, to ensure that health disparities are addressed in every county's COVID-19 response, the state has introduced a health equity metric as part of the tiered system in California's blueprint for a safer economy. We welcome the addition of this metric. It aligns with the county's focus on equity and addressing health disparities. It also ensures a sustainable reopening as we progress into lower tiers and there's more interaction between all communities. In recognition that some of our communities have been disproportionately impacted by COVID infection, we partnered with the nonprofit group On the Move and community health centers and invested in bilingual, bicultural outreach with targeted contact tracing, proper isolation and quarantine of cases and contacts, and data-driven pop-up testing sites. We've seen a real change with these proactive partnerships and actions and have decreased the percentage in the disparity between Latinx and the white non-Hispanic residents from 78% at the height of the disparity to 54% as of October 2nd. All of the testing that we've done and the outreach has been instrumental in decreasing the disparity. Because we have already had such great success, the metric does not negatively impact our reopening. Currently, the testing positivity rate of the hardest hit communities is within the range to move into the red tier. So the only thing that's keeping us in purple right now is our new cases per day per 100,000 or our case rate. We're pleased also that the Board of Supervisors has been highly supportive of all of our efforts with the Latinx and has just allocated $1.5 million in CARES Act funding to reach high-risk populations and provide emergency financial assistance and case management services. I also want to mention that Sonoma County has just announced CARES Act funding rental support for renters whose ability to pay rent has been impacted by COVID-19, and to landlords who have lost income due to COVID-19. Low-income renters and low-income landlords can apply for this relief at the County of Sonoma CARES Act Emergency Rental Assistance page. So thanks very much, and we'll talk again soon.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Mace. Okay, we're now going to go to questions from the media and from the public. Again, we want to invite those of our viewers to submit questions by emailing them to publicaffairs, one word, at sonoma-county.org, or just leaving in the comments section on Facebook Live. But before we do, we just have a brief reminder for our Spanish-speaking viewers. Sylvia? You're on mute. Yeah.
Ok. Buenas tardes. Si nos acaban de acompañar, esta conferencia de prensa está transmitida en español en vivo en nuestro canal de YouTube. Esta es una actualización de los incendios y de coronavirus. Para escuchar la versión en español, puede usar el link de YouTube que se incluyó en la descripción de esta publicación en Facebook. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Sylvia. Let's start with Julie Johnson. Julie?
Hi there. This question pertains to Sugarloaf and Hood Mountain parks. And so I was hoping to hear from both Chair Gorin and also Chief Nichols. For Chair Gorin, I wanted to ask your sense of the impact to those parks, financial, but also to the land, and recognizing also that you've had, I think, an image of those very ridge lines behind you during the whole glass fire event. And then Chief Nichols, I was hoping you could explain a little bit more about kind of the last days of firefighting in Sugarloaf in particular, kind of why that was a critical area.
Thanks, Julie. I think it is important to have a director of regional parks on one of our briefings to really talk about the damages that they're seeing. I've witnessed the recovery, partial recovery of the vision behind me after the 2017 fires. And that peak took a direct hit in 2017. But there were portions of the park that were jumped over from the fires, and especially the McCormick addition. And now that is significantly scorched. So I think pretty much the entire park has been experiencing the fire at one point or another. Some of the structures are still standing, and some of the trees, a lot of the trees will recover as they have recovered from 3 years ago. But our ag and open space land of Saddle Mountain still almost 100% devoured by the flames. And Annandale, of course, less damage this time than last time. But I think that is worthy of a standalone briefing on the damage to the parks. I did tour Sugarloaf. The good news is that one side of the Sugarloaf is pretty devastated, but the other side is pretty good shape. So Ben, I would love to hear how you and your team, I met your team, the damage folks up there at Sugarloaf, as they were moving through Adobe Canyon. And my thanks to you and all of your crews for the amazing work that you have been doing.
Thank you, Supervisor Gorin. So Julie, your question about the constant focus of Sugarloaf and that Adobe Canyon corridor That was the southern portion of our western zone here. So with those constant northwest winds that we were experiencing for the duration of the incident, that was the section of line that had the alignment with the prevailing wind, that if that fire got out, we were going to have a hard time, one, catching it, and two, because of the terrain and the topography down there, we were going to potentially have to take the final containment lines all the way to Trinity Road, and we did not want that as an option. So we gave it all we had to keep it in the Adobe Canyon and Sugarloaf State Park. We took the bulldozers up and over the top of the county line there and down into Napa County, and those that have been up on top of that ridge and know that it is very steep country, and it's also still has a heavy component of dead material from the Nuns fire in 17. So because that was one of the higher elevations on the fire, it was the most exposed to the wind. So it was a constant concern for us. And we did experience a couple slop overs on the Napa County side of the line over there. So that was the reason why it was the focus to us. And we are working diligently here with state parks to rehab that area as best we can after the bulldozers cut the line that they did.
Quick follow-up for Chief Nichols. That upper, is it upper part of Bear Canyon that was the pretty difficult part to get to? Is that what you're talking about?
The issue that we had was keeping it on the ridge lines that we had. Those ridge lines had to run in an east-west fashion to be able to hold the fire at that point. And so accessed back out through the backside of the park up over Bald Mountain, if I recall correctly, and down into Napa Valley.
Okay. Thank you. And lastly, how active is fire there today? I was out there and I saw, some mop-up crews, but otherwise seems like it's buttoned up pretty well.
Yeah, so the last several days, without any real growth on the Sonoma County side of the line, the crews were going interior into the burned area and seeking out those hot spots to extinguish them before they had a chance to flare up and threaten the line. I can tell you that working your way up Adobe Canyon, very low intensity burn down to the actual creek and the road. And while there are pockets there in the park that have had a higher fire intensity than the riparian areas, there are a lot of areas that also have a low burn intensity to it. So I believe that come next spring and into next year, you'll see that the park isn't quite as devastated as it looks like right now.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I do want to confirm we will have a parks manager as a panelist for our town hall meeting on Wednesday. We'll give you more information about that town hall in a little bit. Let's go to Martin Espinoza.
Hi there. This question is for Dr. Mace. A few weeks ago, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, Dr. Mace, we talked about our reproductive rate, our effective being below 1, down to like 0.88, I think it got. But now it's back up again. And we have one of the higher R effectives in the state right now. And the governor today suggested that, across the globe, we're starting to see the second wave, and that might actually affect us here in California. Our numbers have been good. We see more people going into the orange and the red zones. What do you think? What is happening right now in Sonoma County? Have we seen a plateau in this decrease, or because we were starting to see fewer cases, a decrease in cases, but it looks like we're stable now in terms of the spread of the virus?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. We have been tracking the numbers closely. And as you suggested, it looks like there are effective, or the transmission reproductive rate, that is, seems like it's a little higher. There seems like there may be a little trend in the Bay Area and the state of California for slightly increased case numbers. It could be a reflection of Labor Day events because it's about the right time. It could also be still from our fires and evacuation. So we'll have to just track that. Our epidemiologists are trying to sort that out right now. And we'll hopefully have a little bit more specific data as to where we're seeing those increases by the end of the week.
As a follow-up, we have not seen a lot of deaths recently. For a while there, when it got into our skilled nursing facilities and our residential care facilities, we unfortunately saw a lot of people pass away with the virus. But we have seen a decrease in cases in that population. Do you think we're going to see sort of our deaths level off because it seems to have played out in our senior care home?
Yeah, as long as we can keep COVID out of our vulnerable populations, the congregate settings, the skilled nursing facilities, the residential care facilities for the elderly, I think we'll continue to hopefully not see deaths, because that's the population that's been most affected with those negative outcomes. So I'm hoping that all of the infection control recommendations and practices that have been put in place at these congregate settings, enhanced screening of staff members, the limiting of people working from one facility to another, all the different things that we put in place, hopefully will be effective to keep that, the COVID out of these really, really vulnerable populations.
Thank you.
Here's a quick question from one of our viewers for Chief Nichols. Ben, they ask, do we still have firefighters working on the Wallbridge fire? Is that completely buttoned up?
As you might recall, the Wallbridge is still currently 98% contained, and that is due to the heavy fuels interior. We still are chasing hot spots here and there. I believe it was 2 days ago. We had a flare-up, not threatening the line, but a flare-up well inside the burn out above Lake Sonoma, visible on the rock pile camera. And a couple days ago, we were also on Mill Creek Road chasing a hot spot. So as we mentioned during the Wallbridge, we will continue to see those pop up intermittently until we get significant rains this coming fall.
That's great. Well, maybe we can start by this weekend with those rains. Let's go to Carrie Benefield. Carrie?
Thank you. Dr. Mace, this one is for you again. Any update on school waivers? Has anybody received the green light, the school that you forwarded on to Sacramento?
Yeah, nothing has changed with school waivers yet at this time, though everything is still pending.
Okay. And do you get any sense of when you will hear back from Sacramento?
I'm not sure. It's the first one that we've sent up, so we'll have to wait and see how long that takes.
Okay. And then has any of the 13 that were sent back per your recommendation to make changes, have any of those come back to your desk?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think any of them have come back yet.
Okay. And then the last question is, can the public have a list of these applicants to know which campuses are applying to have in-person learning?
I think once we complete our review and make final decisions, we will definitely get that information out.
And can you elaborate on that of why that information can't be out now as you review?
Well, at this time, we're just not going to give a list of the different organizations or institutions that have applied. Once we finish the process of making decisions on whether they're going to open or not, then we'll definitely post them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Kaylee Tornay, you there?
Yes, I am. My question is also for Dr. Mace, and I apologize that I'm probably drawing the ire of everyone else here because I am asking about trick or treating, and I know we talked about that once, but I just wanted to see if Dr. Mace, you would mind kind of talking again about how people should think about trick or treating this year in Sonoma County, whether they should, shouldn't, just anything in that vein.
Well, first of all, the state is working on guidance for Halloween altogether and the Day of the Dead as well. And we also are working on our own guidance to try to minimize the risk associated with Halloween and Day of the Dead activities. It's probably not advisable to go door to door trick-or-treating for kids or for parents with kids, simply because that's going to expose you to a lot of people, and it very much might make the transmission of COVID, especially as we know that asymptomatic people who don't even know they have COVID could be infected and able to transmit. We are not recommending door-to-door trick-or-treating. We're also obviously not recommending parties or large social events or gatherings during this Halloween or Day of the Dead. So more to follow. We are working on finalizing that guidance.
Okay, this is a question from one of our viewers. Christine asked, this is probably one that maybe our elected officials might address. She asked, can we consider a leaf blower ban or heavy educational program during wildfire smoke events when our air quality index, our air quality is so hazardous? It's a real problem throughout the county. Anybody want to take that one on?
Well, I will say that the city of Sonoma tried to enact a leaf blower ban, and it sort of tore the community apart and ended up on the ballot. And indeed, the residents of Sonoma did agree with a ban on leaf blowers. I had a sort of conversation when I served on the city of Santa Rosa. I won't comment on that, but as you know, it didn't go very far. And boy, to contemplate a ban on leaf blower countywide, maybe not the most important thing that we need to focus on, especially now as we're experiencing fire number 3 in a month and a half. Supervisor Zane serves on the BACMed board. I bet she has an opinion.
I do have an opinion. On the Spare the Air days, you're not supposed to use leaf blowers. So, and as Chief Nichols has pointed out many times before, there's a lot of things you shouldn't use in a red flag alert too, just common sense. Since so 90% or more of the fires are started by human beings. So just, you know, if it is a Spare the Air day, I would say don't use it. Use a good old fashioned rake. You'll get better exercise anyway.
And Paul, I would just add for the city of Santa Rosa, we're putting out material that I shared today on our website saying don't use a leaf blower with the ashes. It's just, whether you want to call it common sense, it's not the best way to deal with it. We give some tips on how to deal with it and how to dispose of it. But we are not, it is not on our current agenda to address this because that's a much larger community conversation that the city of Santa Rosa will not be taking this calendar year.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's good to remind people, this is not your basic fireplace or barbecue ash out there. This is full of all kinds of things, and it's best to, let's keep it under control. Let's go to Will Schmidt from the Press Democrat. Will? Will, are you there? Okay, not sure if we're having a problem with your mic. You can always text me your question, Will, or put it in the chat. Let's go to Martin. Martin, you had a follow?
Thank you. I do have a follow for Dr. Mace, but regarding the ash, my aunt in Mexico used to sprinkle water on the concrete floor in the patio to, you know, sweep up the dust. Is that something I could do with the ash in my back patio? Sprinkling water so it won't come up?
I think I'm going to refer that question to Supervisor Chairwoman Gorin, since she probably has more experience than I do with that.
Well, I will say that when I returned home yesterday, my decks were covered in ash. My plants were covered in ash. I didn't want to use a leaf blower, and I don't necessarily want to use a broom unless you use a broom very discreetly with a dustpan, which I did do in my driveway and garage. So if you use a broom very, very slowly to capture that ash and then deposit it in either the yard waste or the trash bin, that would be a good thing. But again, please be respectful and figure out where the ash is that you are trying to accumulate. And again, from my perspective, I think a light sprinkling of water is good to settle that into the ground. And I'm hoping that it's beneficial to the plants. I don't know.
So my real question, Dr. Mace. So yeah, last week we talked a little bit about whether there was anything we could do to expedite our, movement down these tiers. We're stuck at the purple zone. Is there anything beyond just sort of waiting to see what, obviously we're doing a lot of the contact tracing, the work you guys are doing at public health, but is there anything else we can do? We're the only Bay Area county in the purple right now.
Well, I think that what we found with the data was that gatherings are leading to more cases and increasing our case rate. We saw that after Memorial Day, after Father's Day, there were spikes in cases after both of those holidays. We saw it after July 4th as well, very discrete increase in cases. So I think we were doing very well limiting gatherings and making sure it seemed like people were really just doing things with their households for much of the time before Labor Day. And then I think we saw, all of us observed many, many, many large gatherings during that Labor Day weekend, followed by the evacuations from the Walbridge fire. So I think we've had a few events that may have contributed to our cases, if not rising, at least staying about the same, but now maybe even seeing a slight increase. As we know, and we've discussed, Martin, it probably takes about 4 weeks before you see the impact of anything in terms of COVID transmission with an increase in cases. So my advice to people would be, let's really keep down the gatherings with non-household members, because our data is very clear. Back in, I would say May and June, the percentage of cases occurring due to or associated with and due to gatherings is about 15% in every category. That dropped to 8% last month before Labor Day. So people were doing the right thing, it looked like. I'm going to be interested to see what that percentage is this week as we're investigating it. But in addition to really paying attention to all the mitigation measures, really avoid gathering with non-household members of any size.
Just real quickly, in your conversations with other public health officials or officers in the Bay Area, what are some of the counties like San Francisco? What are they doing to have such a ridiculously low transmission rate or a case rate? I think it's 3.3, or it's really low.
Yeah. So I think they're able to house and isolate and quarantine people at a much broader scale, because they have used many of their hotels to do that. It's easier because they're in a smaller location in an urban area. The other thing is that San Francisco was more restrictive than the state in many areas. For example, when the governor moved to open hair salons and barbershops, San Francisco did not open indoor hair salons and barbershops. That's just one example of how San Francisco has been more restrictive. If you take a look at some of the orders in the other Bay Area counties, they are more restrictive than the governor's state order. And that may have had an impact in decreasing the case numbers in those counties.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to go back to Will. Will, have you, are you Is your mic working? If not, he did text me his question or.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Will. We hear you.
Software updates are the worst. Was just curious for Chief Nichols. It sounded like when you said you're turning a corner on the fire, most of the activity was up in Napa, but is there any active fire risk left in Sonoma County, or is it just mop up at this time?
Well, until the fire is 100% contained, then there's still a fire risk. So that's why we still have crews on the line. I just got an update from the incident that we currently have, I believe, 2,801 personnel on the fire. So the containment is bumped up to 41% for this evening, but we also have an additional roughly 1,000 acres growth in size of the fire due to the activity up there on the St. Helena mountainside. So until you see black along the entire perimeter of the fire, there is an ongoing threat potentially, although maybe not great, but it is still uncontained line, and therefore we will keep crews on it until we are sure that that fire will not come back out.
Sorry, could you clarify then, please? What are the spots in Sonoma County that you're still worried about in terms of fire? And I get that, if the line's uncontained, technically, sure. If you can point it out on the map, that's great. That's perfect.
So yeah, if you're looking at the operations map for today, the red section up Adobe Canyon into Sugarloaf and over into the Napa Valley is the portion where we have the most threat due to the prevailing winds, and also the area between the end of Sharp Road and the end of Gates Road. We continue to work crews in there for mop-up procedures. Those are the portions in Sonoma County that we have an ongoing possibility of the fire continuing to grow.
Great, thank you so much.
Very...
I appreciate that, thank you. And then last question, kind of following up on that, if I may. Any idea, this is for, I'm not sure who this goes to, perhaps Chief Navarro or Chief Nichols, or Sheriff Essick. Oh, that's Misty. Hi, Misty. What do the next few days look like in terms of reducing evacuation orders down to warnings, removing evacuation warnings, and generally getting people back into their homes? I know there were some evacuations that were lifted today, I think along Kenwood or along Highway 12 in Kenwood. But what do the next few days look like, if anyone can speak to that?
Well, this is Misty. Sorry. Okay, so I wish that I could give you a clearer answer. This is as good as I can do. We're working constantly with CAL FIRE. We are shoulder to shoulder with CAL FIRE, trying to get those evacuation zones lifted as soon as possible. So it changes kind of minute by minute and hour by hour as we look at with our partners at CAL FIRE. What is the fire danger? How is the repair work going? We know that people are really, really anxious to get back to their homes and properties and sort of figure out their next steps. We do recognize that. And so we're doing everything we can to get people back as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, I don't have a better answer for you than that. Just we're working as hard as we can, as quickly as we can.
Yeah, Will, I would say the same thing. I mean, we're in that unified command for a reason, and it takes everybody to give the nod before we can actually move forward with it. And ultimately it's going to lie with local jurisdiction, but we have to do this together, and it can change within a minute. And so we're working as quickly and as efficiently as we can, but we got to do it safe. So we're just asking for continued patience. We know everybody's going through this. It's very difficult, but we're going to do what we can to get people back in as quickly as possible.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. If you got
With
something
that,
else, go for it.
I was just going to say, to go with it, this is that point in the incident where we haven't seen active flaming fronts for a while, and there's not as much smoke in the air, and people are starting to wonder, what are they doing? Why are they keeping me out? but this is that critical piece of time where we have to make the area safe for folks to return. So that's that critical utilities work, county roads work, and the hazard trees. So there's a lot of trees that have been weakened by the fire. Our crews have identified those trees along the county roads, and those trees have been marked for removal so that they don't fall on people as they re-enter the fire area. So that coordination takes some doing. PG&E has set up quite an operation down off of Highway 12 to support that ongoing utility work across the fire area. So that work is underway. Everybody's working as hard as they possibly can to get that area put back together so we can get people home.
Great. Thank you all so much for your answers. Really appreciate it.
Okay, well, it's the top of the hour and we're going to end it here. Once again, I want to thank all of our panelists, as well as our behind the scenes crew, including Ross, our producer, Daniela, our Spanish interpreter, and Rachel and Jennifer, our ASL interpreters. We also want to thank, as always, our public information partners from the City of Santa Rosa and CAL FIRE for helping us to organize this joint news briefing. We will not be holding a briefing tomorrow on Tuesday, but we do invite you all back on Wednesday at 5 p.m. for a special town hall briefing with the City of Santa Rosa and CAL FIRE that we will have a special focus on the road to recovery. During this briefing, we will have with us state and local representatives to talk about what fire victims need to know most about everything from removing debris from their lots to filing claims with their insurance companies. Once again, we also will have with us Dr. Sundari Mace, who will give us an update on how we are doing in our other road to recovery, the road to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. Until then, we encourage you all to stay safe and enjoy some clean air for a change. Thank you all.